Welcome to the Pokémon Resort.
Finally! After 27 years, there's finally a form of Pokemon media that's so darn adorable you don't even have to know anything about the franchise to enjoy it. Pokemon Concierge is out now on Netflix, and it's just about the sweetest, most lighthearted series you could imagine. Fittingly enough, the entire cast is pretty dang pleasant, but that doesn't mean we won't provide you with a rundown of the most memorable guests of the Pokemon Resort. I'm Kifinosi with Wicked Binge, and this is Pokemon Concierge characters, good to most pure. For those unfamiliar with the format, today we're starting with the least impressive characters, morally speaking, and working our way up to the purest of them all. These characters are all the good. First up is perhaps the most mysterious Pokemon we encountered during our stay, Diglett. The legendary mole Pokemon, Diglett is only seen a handful of times throughout the show, and each time, he's causing a bit of mischief. We first see him when Haru is riding on a bike, at which point he decides to pop up in her path and force her to swerve around. It's possible this was an accident, sure, but his total lack of concern for her safety when she crashes begs to differ. Later, he's playing ball with some other Pokemon on the beach and knocks one of his friends up from the ground. Diglett's friendly enough, and he certainly isn't out to actually hurt anyone, but you have to wonder what's really underneath that stoic, vacant stare of his. I'm watching you, Diglett. Moving from land to sea, up next is a very special Magikarp. In episode 3, Haru and Psyduck take notice of a little Magikarp who has a star marking on its body. And a floaty, even more weirdly. It turns out that this Magikarp took a page out of SpongeBob's book and is unable to swim despite living in the water. So when a Wingull accidentally snatches its floaty mid-flight, Magikarp is devastated. Thankfully, Haru, Psyduck, and Dragonite team up to save the day, although they end up accidentally breaking the floaty in the process. But all hope is not lost. Magikarp evolves into Gyarados and is able to swim without it. This guy's not ranked any higher because, well, you still could have thanked them, dude. I mean, I know they broke the floaty, but they put in some darn good effort for you. Up next is one of our most confusing entries, Furret and Rattata. Whenever these two are seen, it's almost always in the context of Furret chasing Rattata, regardless of whether it's against the rules or not. It is entirely possible that the two are just friends playing around, though, and that's actually more likely since Rattata didn't use Haru's distraction to get a head start on the run from Furret. We will give Furret the Wrath Center medal, though, but in an affectionate sense for his dedication towards whatever game he's playing with Rattata. Our next guest is the large and in charge Snorlax. Snorlax isn't the kind to try and accept a position of authority. In fact, he really just wants to nap on the beach most of the time. And honestly, what's wrong with that? The dude's just chilling and having a great time in his own way. He doesn't even mind when little Pikachus are playing on his belly, or at least he just doesn't care enough to do anything about it. Oh, and there's just no way the Gluttony and Sloth Center medals could go to anyone but him. Now we move on to one of the only human guests we see much of in the series, Nao. You'll remember Nao as the young boy from episode 4 who owned a shy little Pikachu. He came to the resort hoping to make his Pikachu more Pikachu-like.
It seems like you have a shy little Pikachu.
Essentially meaning more outgoing, or at least a bit louder. While going to a resort to change your pet's entire personality isn't the nicest thing to do, it's clear that Nao meant well, and he does ultimately accept his little buddy for who he is. Speaking of, next up is the ever-iconic Pikachu. Who doesn't love Pikachu? Seriously, I dare one of you to speak up. I dare one of you to expose yourself like that, because this man, or mouse, is a legend. This Pikachu in particular is a little bit shy, but he clearly loves his owner and just wants an environment where he can have fun without having to socialize too much. And honestly, who doesn't? Now it's time for the first of the 4 main humans, Alyssa. Alyssa is one of Haru's co-workers and does a lot to help out during her time at the resort. Her skill at rock climbing comes in handy when a graveler camps out near the top of a cliff, not wanting to leave when it's time to go. It's just that good of a place.
You're supposed to go home today.
Alyssa's also an exceptionally skilled Pokemon trainer who can work with a variety of companions, and given that she isn't even upset when one breaks her newly painted art wall, she's got a pretty long fuse. Alyssa also proves herself to be a reliable friend, encouraging Haru to find her talent and focus on what she's good at instead of dwelling on what she isn't. She's the kind of friend who will sit with you in tough times but won't let you stay there, and that's worth its weight in gold. We're giving the next spot to one of her closest companions, an adorable little Mudkip. Really, there's not too much to say about Mudkip. He's a friendly little guy and acts sort of how you'd expect an outdoor puppy to.
It just started following me around.
Mudkip warms up to other Pokemon and even human guests rather quickly and always sticks by its trainer, Alyssa, though it's not reckless enough to try and rock climb. We're sure he'd do great though. Next is Haru's co-worker, Tyler. Just the name Tyler and the character design he has should probably tell you just about everything you need to know about this guy. Tyler is, and I don't use this word lightly, a himbo in every sense of the word. He's a goofy, friendly guy who's always there to make others feel welcome, even if he is a bit of an airhead.
Try finding what you think is really fun.
We'll give him the Darwin medal, but not because he's stupid. He's just that laid back and at ease. Tyler works in sanitation, cooks food for his fellow workers, and even works as a fitness instructor just just for fun. Speaking of fun, there's no way we could talk about Tyler without mentioning his adorable trio of right-hand Pokemon, Pansear, Panpour, and Pansage. Now you might argue they should be ranked lower given how rambunctious they are and how they tend to cause some playful mischief here and there, but two things. One, absolutely no one is arguing that, and two, these guys are the definition of just monkeying around. They're more than happy to help people and other Pokemon out, and while they might get a little hyperactive, they're just out here to have fun. You gotta respect that. Their antics are actually the first thing to get Haru to fully laugh and open up to her new boss, so if that's any indication, they're fulfilling their role pretty darn well. Plus, it's gotta take some serious tolerance for a monkey with fire powers and a monkey with water powers to be friends. Just saying. Landing right outside of the top 3 is Haru's new boss, Miss Watanabe. If every boss in the world were like this, it'd be a much happier place. Just imagine having a job that provides free room, food, and a whole new environment, and your only task is to help cute little animals have fun. That's basically Miss Watanabe's business strategy. Pokemon first is her motto, and she lives by it. Given that she's able to employ 3 skilled individuals and properly mold them into Pokemon Paradise Makers, it's clear that Miss Watanabe knows what she's doing.
In other words, you'll be the Pokemon Concierge.
With how dark a lot of shows tend to get nowadays, we won't deny there was just a twinge of doubt that Miss Watanabe was really as nice as she appeared to be. So the fact that she actually did live up to her first impressions earns her a lot of brownie points in our book, as does the generally sweet nature of her profession. The Bronze Medal of Good goes to the main character and Pokemon Concierge herself, Haru. One bad week is all it takes for Haru to turn her life upside down and move to an island chock full of Pokemon just having a good time. It turns out that this was a fantastic move on her part. Though she starts out as a total worrywart who overthinks every bit of work she does, she eventually loosens up and learns to be able to help out any Pokemon who needs help. Haru has a gift for seeking out the Pokemon most in need of comfort and helping them. We see this in just about every episode. She befriends Psyduck and helps him through his headache pain, bearing with the chaos his psychic powers cause, and later on she works tooth and nail to help Pikachu come out of his shell.
It seems like you have a shy little Pikachu.
Not to mention the aforementioned quest to rescue that little Magikarp's floaty, Haru is the kind of person who can't see an eye full of tears without doing her best to wipe them away, which makes her one of the purest souls on an already friendly island. But the runner-up position has to go to her new BFF, Psyduck! Being that he's teamed up with the ever-altruistic Haru, it's obvious that Psyduck earns a lot of good points by his alignment alone, but we've got our reasons for putting him even higher than her. For one, Psyduck is hurting at the start of the series. He has constant headaches that give him uncontrollable telekinetic abilities, and when Haru is nice to him, despite this, he helps her by levitating some berries before they drop to the ground. Once Psyduck realizes that nobody at the resort is mad at him, he starts to open up, and once he's over his headaches and has control over his powers, he uses them to help others just as much as Haru. Even though he's absolutely terrified most of the time, who could be better than this little guy? Well, while he may not be the resort's most prominent guest, we're giving our gold medal of good to Dragonite. He kind of looks like what would happen if Barney the dinosaur decided to cosplay as Charizard for the day, and thankfully, his personality isn't too far off from that, minus the childhood trauma of Barney. Dragonite is one of the most invaluable Pokemon at the resort. His skillful flight allows him to provide rides to flightless Pokemon, showing that he's just as determined as the human workers to show everyone a good time. That alone is already impressive, but then there's the 3rd episode in which Dragonite shows zero hesitation to help Haru and Psyduck retrieve Magikarp's floaty. When Psyduck accidentally drops it, Dragonite himself dives down in an attempt to grab it. This man will straight up put his life in jeopardy to help others, and that's a surefire ticket to the gold medal of good. Also, just look at him. If Huggable were a Pokemon, it would be Dragonite.